As a parent, you've probably had this nagging feeling, this gut intuition, that something is going on with your baby, despite your pediatrician telling you that everything is normal. Maybe it's the way they're struggling to sleep without being held, excessive fussiness they're dealing with, their body just feels tense, digestive issues, a whole list of stuff that others or maybe other providers even are dismissing as just normal baby stuff. Parents, I want to tell you that it is okay and it is needed to trust your intuition, to trust your gut on stuff like that. No one knows your baby better than you. And these subtle signs that you're seeing are oftentimes indicators of this behind the scenes hidden neurological stress that your kid could be dealing with. The Journal of the American Osteopathic Association did a study where they evaluated healthy newborns, so newborns that weren't dealing with any challenges, and they found that 99% of these healthy newborns had what was called somatic dysfunction. That's some sort of physical misalignment and fixation in their neurospinal system or in their cranium that is leading to this neurological dysfunction and dysregulation. This is something going on in so many babies that no one is talking about. And this hidden stress isn't going to just cause that temporary discomfort for them. This is at the root of so many long-term challenges. Those early months and days and weeks of life are the foundation. They're the architecture of the brain as it develops throughout the lifespan. And so we see that the current kids these days that are dealing with, 40% of them have some sort of chronic health challenge. We can connect so much of that back to how was their start to life? What were some of those early indicators? So parents, do not ignore these things. Let's talk about what's actually going on and how you can get to the bottom of that and how this neurological stress is at the root of so much of it. So whether you are a parent in that very early season where you do have just the cranky, fussy baby and you're trying to get ahead of that, or maybe you do have the older kids, that's one of the 40% of them that has some sort of chronic illness. This message is for you to help understand really what's going on and how do we get headed in a different direction for your kids' health, both for the getting out of the current challenge, but also making sure that future trajectory looks a lot different too. So let's walk through this. You're going to hear us use the language of the perfect storm a lot, and that's really the description of how we are in this situation of so many kids dealing with chronic health struggles. There is a perfect storm of stress factors that are building up and accumulating to lead to kids that are dealing with these issues. In that perfect storm, a big one that isn't being talked about enough is how much the early life factors can contribute to this. Maternal stress is a big part of that, right? You may be aware of fertility challenges, loss and miscarriage. That has skyrocketed. And so we have more moms going through that pregnancy journey with a lot of fear, with a lot of uncertainty. And their nervous system is in a state of fight or flight, which is then what's hardwiring their newborn to experience life in that as well. What you'll hear us refer to that as the gas pedal versus the brake pedal. And that's what our poster here is referring to. This is technically called the autonomic nervous system. And so you might know of it as the sympathetic and parasympathetic tides, but that language of gas pedal versus brake pedal is really easy to grasp, right? Your gas pedal is that fight or flight response. That's your survival mode, your instinct of, hey, I gotta make it out of the woods in this fight against the bear, right? We need that survival mode temporarily. What happens is a lot of times we get stuck in stress, we get stuck in that fight or flight mode, your nervous system never down regulates, and then the brake pedal, where we really need to be living, that gets shut off. That's our immune system, our gut health, our digestion, our sleep, our rest. All of the things we need for wellness are living in that brake pedal. So if we get stuck in fight or flight, this is going to affect every aspect of our development because our nervous system controls every aspect of development. So those early life factors are huge because it's setting the stage, it's setting the foundation for the brain architecture. The birth process then is a massive wrench into that plan in way too many cases, right? C-section rates are up to 35 or 40%. And even if we're not having a C-section birth, a lot of times forceps or vacuum extraction or even just manual hands-on pulling, turning, twisting at that really sensitive head and neck brainstem area massively impacts our kids. And there's so much more that we could go into that, right? Induction has a different flair to that stress, prolonged labors that are too fast, too slow. There's a major amount of trauma that our kids are going through in that birth process, which is why that study that we cited earlier, 99% of those kids are dealing with this somatic dysfunction, right? And that is that group of osteopaths that were doing that research. So we're seeing this happen all the time early on, and it's leading to some really, really common baby challenges. Here's what, it could look like so much, but sleep struggles are one of them, colic and fussiness, digestive issues, feeding challenges in the sense of maybe they only can latch on one side or they can't latch at all. You notice there's a lot of physical asymmetry. They can only turn their head in one direction, and that's leading to a flattening in the back of the head. That could be something you're noticing as a baby, right? Maybe you're in that phase of parenthood, or maybe you do have the older kid that's dealing with some heavier stuff now. They're dealing with anxiety, they're dealing with ADHD, with sensory processing challenges. If you think back, I'm willing to bet that part of that start to life had some of those baby struggles, or maybe there were the ear infections or other indicators of this imbalance from an earlier phase of life. Because we see it all the time, guys. We see that those early life struggles set the stage for friction, for frustration, for struggle later in life as well. And unfortunately, our standard pediatrician care, that traditional healthcare approach, really misses this stuff, right? They're looking for, is the baby growing? They're looking for, are we majorly missing milestones? And even when we're off, we tend to wait and see. We tend to see if they'll grow out of it instead of getting on top of addressing those things and supporting a kid right away. And it just sets them up for more and more struggles. No part of that newborn standard care is looking for this neurological dysfunction, right? And it drives me crazy. Your kids have had their eyes, their ears, their nose, their throat, their heart, their lungs. They've had all this stuff checked in that first couple of days and hours of life, but never the nervous system, never the operating system, the gas pedal versus brake pedal that runs everything else. And that's really what we're trying to change is let's, yes, be looking for those big major developmental delays or medical pathologies, but let's do it alongside making sure that we're optimizing that kid's health and not just waiting to hope they grow out of some of these early life struggles, because it only gets harder, right? Kids don't grow out of them, they just grow into the next version of that challenge. So that's what we need to do, and that's literally what neurologically focused pediatric chiropractic exists for. We, one, have scans that are going to look at and measure and assess this, right? How is our nervous system adapting? How are we handling stress? Are we in a well-regulated, balanced state, or are we in more of that fight or flight survival mode? So that's step one. We just got to see where we're at, and then those scans are going to guide care, right? We're going to use that as an indicator to make sure that we're not just seeing symptomatic changes. We want to see that, of course, right? We got to get out of that struggle, but we've got to get to those deeper things as well. We've got to get to the neurological underpinnings and that neurological architecture that'll set their developmental course on a completely different direction into the future, not just temporarily get them out of that problem mode. So that's your takeaway, parents. Trust your instinct, right? Don't fight against that mom gut or that intuition that you have that tells you something's wrong. You just need to find a provider that is going to be aligned with that and going to give you some tools and options of seeing that and then addressing it and making sure that you can undo that as well. So reach out to our team. We will answer happily any questions that you have. We'll love to get your kids scanned, whether they are in that newborn phase of you're trying to undo that newborn stress and make sure it doesn't turn into something worse, or maybe you've been through that for years and you're in that elementary school, middle school, high school era of the chronic health struggles and you want to get ahead of it then and undo some of that damage that they're dealing with. We're here for you, and we can't wait to meet you soon and help your family thrive.